say welcome?
Hi.
That's
Okay.
welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to the Sydney Survivor
Hi.
merge. Oh my god.
Hello.
My children are my entwined destinies.
Hi.
Okay, do you guys want to introduce who's going to be on the show? Okay. No, you're out, Jay?
No.
Okay, you guys can do your job or you can go.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
So who we got first with us?
Jules.
And I'm in
Hello,
mourning.
Jules. Welcome to the show. She's in mourning because her
Devastated.
bestie got voted out.
Yeah.
And then who else is coming?
Annabel.
Hello.
Good job. We're on to bed.
Great intro, guys.
Yes. So here we are for Sydney Survivor merge episode 7. And look, let's just dive into the twist because there's no point starting with like what happened before the twist and whatever. We're all going to be focusing on the twist. It's pair destinies, entwined destinies. I'm wearing my entwined destiny in tribute to John Tan because I was really hoping he would come back in for some good salt. He didn't. So this is my memory for him. Jules obviously is entwined with sorrow because her friends and besties got voted out. Annabel, not representing entwined destiny here, but I'm sure is somewhat got opinions. Now, there's so much discussion about this already. It's been all over Facebook and group chats. Is this a good twist? Is this not a good twist? I have views. Let's hear your views. Well, Jules is a no, but why, Jules? Why is it a no? Why is it a bad twist?
I like it in theory. Okay. I like the element of an extra layer of complication of like, okay, I want to vote out CK, but I can't because he's paired with Annabelle and Annabelle's my ally. I like that. However, what I don't have it at the merge vote for starters. Like that's a complicated enough vote as it is. Don't have it with only 10 people because you're left with 5 options. Don't have it when you've got a legacy advantage in play at the same vote. And don't have it when you have 4 total immunities at play. We could have had an advantage get-in the sense that we could have had immunity, 2 idols, and a legacy advantage. And then there's one team that goes just by sheer unluckiness. So that's the part I don't like. The twist itself, it needs some work, but it's not horrible.
Okay, can I counter some of your points?
Yes, you can. And I'd also like to point out first, I would be this salty if it wasn't Danny that got voted out. So please do not discount my opinions based on the fact that it screwed over my friend.
I don't know. Look, I would say this. If Shane and Joseph goes, you don't care. Now,
I do care. I still think it's terrible.
I would say that you can't do it at 8 because there's just not enough people left. You have to have even numbers, and they weren't merged at 12. So you can't do it at that.
I don't think it could work in analogy. I think you need more than. I think you would need at least 12. I think it should be a merge at 13 and then have it at 12. That's the only way it could work, and that just wouldn't work in analogy.
This, I think, is an exact replica of South Africa. I think that equally had 10. I also think that the one point you make a very strong and fair point about is the legacy advantage. There is no reason to have it playable here. It could have been playable at final 8. And you don't need to know why that is. And that's where it should have been playable, not here, because you're always going to play it here.
Absolutely.
For me, that's the one error with what was done. And I would say that it's a twist that's been done in Survivor before. They've just copied something that was done in South Africa, and they're doing a one-day game for 16 people with an edge of extinction. You need to have the ability for a quick double elimination.
I agree with that, definitely.
And they've used an actual twist on Survivor. So I think it's actually better here than on... I didn't mind it in Africa because in Africa, it was very results-oriented because, like, no one that everyone was worried about going went. Like, and Chappie survived longer and everyone was just happy about that. Whereas here, some of the better, more interesting players went. So it was a bit devastating in that way. But... without this, I can't see them having edge of extinction. And I think for a one-day game, edge of extinction is valuable. Like for an LRG an ability for people to come back in the game is good. To travel out to the Blue Mountains, whatever the hell they are, to play like NLRG, get voted out first. Like at least you got a chance. So in South Africa, they played for 25 days and got fucked with this. That's pretty rough, right? Whereas the fact is with here, they've been playing for like 12 hours. Like in the end of the day, the heartbreak is not as severe. And
no, but I think there's other ways to do a double boot other than this. I think you could have had more double tribals pre-merge, as in have both tribes go to tribal and as separately, not together, separately, or even just do what they did in Melbourne and have one tribal and then immediately bang, we're going again. Yes, Annabelle, sorry.
I'm just saying there has to be a merge because they've already got down to final 9 for merge and brought someone back. You can't be doing it pre-merge. Annabelle, obviously Jules and I have opposite views on this twist. What is your view? Break the deadlock.
Well, I tend more towards Team CK with this one.
Of course you do.
I liked the twist. I like the Tide Destinies twist. I strongly the only issue I had with this was the sheer number of advantages in play. It was two idols, an idol nullifier, a legacy advantage. That was too much. I mean, we were very near to an advantage getting there. And plus we have an extra vote when there's only 5 votes in play. So too many.
No, there's still 10 votes. There's still 10 votes. You don't have to vote the same way as your partner.
There's only 5 people. Yeah. I liked the twist, and I strongly disagree that either Danny or Christy were twist screwed. I feel quite passionately about that. I'm pretty gutted because I really feel like my faves flubbed this episode super hard.
Were your flaves Ethan?
So I think Ethan flubbed it, and I think Danny has played the last couple of eliminations poorly, and I think that this came back to bite her strongly here.
I would say that Eli agrees with you and other people that are saying the legacy was a bad production read here. So he's admitting that having the legacy advantage at this point was a mistake from production, and I think it's the only mistake about this twist. And as a results-oriented thinking, no, the result wouldn't be any different because Shane plays his other idol. He knows he's in trouble. He plays his other idol.
Another thing I might like to have seen, I felt like the pairs were really boring, and I think that this was because the players had so little time. They just grabbed the person standing next to them.
No, it was random.
No, they picked it wrong.
It was random.
So they did pick it. Okay, I was going to say it would have been nice if they picked it random. Okay.
Just like in South Africa, the exact same thing happened in South Africa where all the pairs were actually all aligned with each other. So this has only ever happened twice in Survivor history, and the same exact thing happened in South Africa where the close pairs all got put together, all the duos. Like I think Chappies was with Santini, and you had the really hot black guy and the guy that was really negative and the guy that was with him. Yeah. So here it's the same thing. We ended up with Ethan and Matt together. Obviously, Danny and Christy, despite being on different tribes, have been very, very tight. Before it even happened, you got Sam talking about how Luke's like his number one. He's like linked in with him. Joseph and Shane, like Shane's not really close to anyone but his advantages, but that's someone he's been with the whole game. He's been with Shane Shane and Joseph have been together the whole game. The only random one was Michelle and Jazz. Like, it was actually uncanny the way that worked out.
And that's actually going to be a huge advantage, Michelle and Jazz, because being with someone from the opposite alliance, you kind of both get saved by that. Because the Blues aren't going to want to vote out Michelle, and the Reds aren't going to want to vote out Jazz, so that becomes the safest pair. Being partnered with your ally is actually a negative.
Well, no one was talking about voting them at all, except that in the postscript, Christy and Danny were talking about how they should have written down their name. I don't think that would have mattered because I think on a revote, the two of them are still going.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about that now, or are we going to start at the beginning of the episode? Because I've got.
We're just moving around here because it's.
Let's go back to the start and work our way through.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's just start and work our way through.
Start of the episode, Edge of Extinction Return Challenge. Now, did I misunderstand? Because I'm pretty sure Eli said just hold the ball on the plate, and then everyone started bouncing it.
Yeah,
Did
I
I
was confused by that.
He said just
Actually,
hold
before
it.
we get to that, did you guys click on did you guys watch it live or did you watch it later?
Later.
I watched it half an hour ago.
So I clicked on about a minute before it was meant to start to watch it, and the thumbnail at the beginning was a clip of Jazz winning, and with the subtitle reading, Jazz wins her way back into the game. So anyone who watched it live was spoiled on the Edge of Extinction challenge before the episode started.
More poor production decisions, and we have a big poor production decision to talk about later. But on the production criticism episode of this podcast, but I thought they just had to hold the ball, like it was going to roll around. And then
every single one of them did it, so it must have been something we didn't see.
Unless someone starts it and they all think, "Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do."
No, it would have been explained to them. We just missed that piece.
I think Eli's said that it was explained outside the episode. Explained rules.
I thought both Jazz and Amanda had great strategies with that challenge. We had the little bumps from Amanda, and we had that really nice, consistent pace from Jazz. So that was really great to see.
Yeah,
confirmed by Malene there. They did have to bounce, and the 10-second advantage. I think that ended up being quite a substantive advantage. I think that's a good amount.
It was a good amount that it did help her, but it didn't mean she automatically wins. I think an advantage needs to, it can't be like basically just give her the win, but also needs to be something. So by the time she started, I think Lizzie and JT had already dropped out.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was going to say, the thing that we're all most devastated about following that Battle Back challenge is that we missed out on seeing the iconic power couple that would have been Shane and JT. That would have been the ultimate rootable duo in all senses of the word.
Do I need to leave?
We'll be criticizing production later, and we already have. So I'll give them a prop for a production decision here. I like that they weren't able to have the same size hula hoops or the same size boards, and they're actually different weights. So that's obviously unfair. So they did a number selection and let people make a choice. Like, you can't have 6 identical things in some of these things. It's difficult in these LRGs. You're on a budget. You just got to get stuff. Like, I like that they knew that there was an advantage to which one you're in and just let people get that by luck.
But how much of an advantage was it? Because I think Jazz was one of the last ones to pick.
I don't think they assessed it well enough. The actual contestants, they weren't properly assessed.
It would be hard to know what's going to be an advantage. Like, bigger is obviously a bigger surface area, but then it's heavier, so it's harder to maneuver. So I think
if I was on the edge and I'd spent 6 hours on the edge waiting for this moment, I would have carefully inspected every single one of these fucking things.
Meanwhile, production would have been like, "You've got 10 seconds to pick one because we're on a strict time schedule." And
then I'd just yell at them like I did in Melbourne.
It's cute. You think CK's ever respected the authority of production?
JP wanted to throw me off Melbourne for yelling at him.
This is true.
Apparently one of the boards was either broken or chopped in half or something.
Yeah, and Leah said she took it so she could hold it closer to her body, which might have been her downfall.
That's a poor decision. You need maximum surface area.
She was eliminated because she used her body to bounce it.
She did. She was eliminated for that. You're right.
Yes.
And that was disappointing. I was really hoping Leah would come back. As much as I would like JP to come back. Look, no offense to Jazz coming back, and hopefully she can make an impact. But from the pre-merge edit, she was not someone I was like, oh, I can't wait till she gets back in and what havoc she's going to cause. Like, it just doesn't seem like the sort of player she is.
Leah said the ball bounced on her titties. Like, that's an unfair advantage to women then. A disadvantage.
Sometimes your heaving bosom just gets in the way of things.
Life. It's painful.
But yeah, I enjoyed the challenge. I'm happy to see Jazz. I thought that this was the best case scenario, actually, for Matt.
Thomas wants to make the point that he has titties as well.
Moving on. I thought this was the best case scenario for Matt, Ethan, and Christy, because they never voted out Jazz. And I do feel strongly that had they gone to tribal, just them, that Merlene would have been cooked and that would have been involved blindsiding Jazz. But they didn't. So the fact that they still couldn't keep Jazz on team and she ended up voting for Ethan at Tribal really just hammers home how badly they cooked it this episode, because really she has ended up siding with the very people who voted her out.
I guess she felt that, and I'm guessing this obviously, that they voted her out, yeah, but they didn't have any like personal, like obviously Joseph and Shane voted her out. Well, Shane didn't because he voted for. It's actually only.
Christy.
It's actually only. It's actually
Joseph
only
was the only one that actually voted for her.
Joseph is actually the only one who voted for her.
But was this a strategic vote for her or a self-preservation? I think she was just going with the numbers, and it was about what's going to keep her safe.
Jazz needs to do almost absolutely nothing to get through to about the final 5, and then maybe they start worrying about being the edge returnee as a threat. But I think she's like one of her or Amanda are the least big players to come back from the edge, so they can potentially like skate through until people go, hang on a minute, Jazz came back from the edge. She might get all the edge votes. We need to take out Jazz. But I don't think she's going to be anyone's immediate target in the next couple. And I do feel that Danny and Christy's elimination makes this final 8 and onwards actually really, really interesting. Because I think
it does open things up, yes.
The Power 5 were just going to dominate until maybe
they're fucked.
They're going to make a swoop at Luke at some point because, you know, he's too good. And you just have Sam, Danny, Michelle, Christy just ruling the roost. You don't think that would have happened, Annabelle?
I disagree. I think that this is where Ethan and Matt really flubbed it. So they had a 5-5 split with original numbers, but I think theoretically they could have had Christy on side. She was voting for Shane because he was a neutral number. He was someone no one wanted to work with. He's gone rogue. And he would have been a number for Blue probably, but Blue were happy to get rid of him as well. So if they had Christy on side, who's actually voted with them way more than she ever had to do with Blue, which was only once, but they cooked this in several ways. So number one, they failed to make Christy feel really safe, even though she had been a solid number for them. We saw in a couple of episodes ago that she called them shifty, shady, and didn't trust the boys. And obviously, the real place that Ethan cooked this was removing what had previously been him and Matt's exclusive power to pick who was going to go home and put all of that in Joseph's basket. Now, they weren't to know that Joseph had such a poor feeling towards Danny, but really when you're looking at it, he's never met Christy before in the game. He's now got Danny, Michelle, and Jazz. Jazz, he did see at the start of the game and was working with. So it's now between Michelle, who he's been with this whole game, and Jazz, who he has a positive working relationship with. Danny, they don't know how he feels towards Danny because they've not spoken to him about it. And Christy, who he's never met before. So you think it would be more reasonable he would sway towards voting out them. And they've also threatened him. So if you have, exactly, Danny's just voted out Joseph's closest ally. We hear Joseph and Leah say last episode that Danny clearly doesn't want to work with them, that they have a bad feeling and a bad vibe towards her. Ethan really, really cooked it. And now there's no coming back.
Who do you think? So are you thinking that Ethan should have not threatened Joseph? Like, what's the point?
Absolutely.
When you're playing an advantage? What's the point?
Game ending move.
He basically told Joseph, I'm voting for you. Like he said, I'm voting for Shane, but if Shane goes, Joseph goes.
It's the same thing. And then, then who do they target? Who's the best target for the two of them? Danny and Christy still? Probably not. Michelle and Jazz.
Michelle and Jazz. If they can't get rid of Shane, it needs to be Michelle and Jazz.
Eli's asking, did we think Joseph and Shane played this vote the best? I hate to say it, but yes.
But equally, but for Shane, it's easy because he's got the legacy advantage. Of course, he's playing it. And look, he obviously told Joseph about it because Joseph didn't have this he didn't seem to have any reaction to the fact that he just got saved. So I feel like Joseph knew all about it. And they guess they knew the threats were coming, and he also voted for Christy. So obviously, what happens is Joseph informs Shane they're going to play an idol. What do we do? Shane's like, don't worry, I've got this legacy advantage. I'll just play that. It's like, amazing. Who are we going to vote for? And Shane's like, I want to vote for Christy. I voted for Christy last time. I want Christy to go. Let's vote for Christy. And Joseph's like, sure, whatever. And they both voted for her. So I assume that was the play that we didn't see on the camera that happened between the two of them. And I agree that's well played.
I disagree with Christy saying it hasn't set them up for anything moving forward. This is really, it has set up... Shane has now made sure that Ethan has put himself forward, and Matt to a lesser extent, as people who are less easy and happy to work with, which he desperately needed because no one wanted to work with him until now. Now Ethan has drawn attention to himself, and Matt also with his tribal speech, as hostile people to work with. Shane has removed Christy, who was somebody who knew he was targeting her and she didn't want to work with him. And Joseph has removed Danny, putting himself more deeply embedded with the Blues as a core number for them.
And they've completely broken up the Blues.
Yeah, they're broken.
If they voted out, they could vote out Luke and Sam. If they'd voted out Michelle and Jazz, well, there's only one Blue gone and one potential number for them. They put their votes on the only pair that consisted of two Blues.
And that's why I think this final 8 is actually going to be incredibly interesting. I think there's a lot of dynamic.
I do agree, yeah.
I think there's the possibility that if Luke doesn't win immunity, they just pile on to him because he just has this perception he's going to win a bunch of them. And he's like a nice guy. And a lot of them are getting asshole edits now. So I think but Matt and Ethan are playing the biggest game just by virtue of all the things they've had to do. Like Shane's played a bunch of idols too. And like Christy says that she won't vote for Shane because she doesn't value a game in Survivor where you have to save yourself twice with 2 idols. But presumably, I think there's some value to saving yourself with an idol, to knowing to when you need to play your idols and playing them. You don't agree, Jules?
I think that there is value in playing idols for sure, but Shane has zero agency in this game. He has not really. The only decisions he is making is based on the fact that he has removed himself as an option. He is not controlling the vote, and that's something that me as a juror, that's what I would value. Who is in control? Who's at agency? Who's controlling what's happening in this game?
Who's a bigger threat, Matt or Ethan?
I mean, he just controlled that vote, I would argue. He's in control of all of the advantages. Shane's problem is that no one likes him.
He's not controlling the other players is what I mean. Yes. He's not saying to he's having to rely on advantages to get his way. Without advantages, nobody's listening to him. Nobody's siding with him. But that's because he's also not putting his vote where the rest of the tribe is. We saw at the double vote, there was a plan that was going to be 4 and 3. He decided to put 1 vote onto Christy for God knows why. As Leah said last week, she would have gone with that if he clued her in.
They could have voted out Christy instead.
They could have done it then, and that would have actually given him a lot of agency. And I would have thought he's actually rising up. But by doing it on his own, it achieved nothing.
Is there a scenario he can win? Could he beat, say, a Michelle and a Jazz at the end?
No, he's too rogue. Too rogue, no relationships. But you were asking before, is Ethan a bigger threat?
Ethan or Matt? Who's the bigger threat?
I think Ethan has cooked it because he's alienated Joseph. He's drawn a lot. And I mean, I know Luke is a bit obsessed with the idea that he's this big challenge threat, but so is Ethan. More people are pointing out Ethan as a challenge threat. He has now revealed he's got an idol nullifier, which ironically could have been the only thing to save him at the next vote if people knew that Shane had another idol, but they don't.
No one's going to believe Shane has a 3rd idol. No one's going to be on that.
So I think Ethan is absolute toast. Matt is the last person in the game who wants to play with him.
I just feel like people would rather vote for Matt at the end, and I think they've got similar stories as a threat level.
I agree.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's going. That I think people would rather keep Matt in the game.
Even though he's got a better chance of beating. I can see the jury not liking Ethan.
But the thing is, you want to keep people in the game that you can potentially work with, and Ethan has shown himself to be pretty erratic. Like, if I was in there, who do I want to work with moving forward, Ethan or Matt? It's Matt. Matt will give his word, and he will do what he says. Ethan says he's going to do this, and then goes and I don't know, does whatever he wants. I love you,
Oh.
Ethan, if you're watching this, but yeah, look, no, I think Matt's a bigger threat, but he's also the person I would want to play with.
I think my winner pick is primed. My winner pick of Sam is in a prime position.
He got screwed this week.
He did, but that's fine. That's taken away his power. Whatever power he had is now gone. And I do think people like Matt, Ethan, Luke, Jazz has come back from Edge. Like, these people look more threatening on the cards than Sam does. Like, for a final tribal. What was interesting as well is the revelation, if Joseph was correct, that it's a final 2, not a final 3, which was very interesting. And I also found it very interesting that Joseph wanted to go to end with Christy.
Oh my God, what an idiot.
Because he wanted the kudos of beating the survivor win. I'm like, dude, you would have lost.
You have to beat her to have the kudos of that, and you were never going to beat her.
What the hell was he thinking?
So when I'm watching these, Danny is getting like live dumps of my thoughts, and she can't respond to any of them to not spoil me. And that was, Joseph wants to go to the end with Christy. Like, what?
So he can beat her. It's like, what?
Nobody should ever want to go to the end with Christy Bennett. That is the dumbest thing you can do.
I stan Joseph, though. I mean,
I do too. That was just
so hard when he said he wanted to play a
bad
perfect game. I'm sorry, who's the king of everyone wanting to work with him and no one voting for him? My man, Joseph. He's
I agree with everything. I think he is playing a very good game. But yeah, not wanting to go to the end with Christy, that's a bad read. To think you would beat her.
Yeah, it's a bad read. Because she has that whole, I came in, or she says, I came in here with the biggest threat level you possibly could imagine, and somehow I made it to the end with all you people. Like, and she'll say it, of course, in the way that she can, more eloquently than me, the one of the greatest final tribal council speeches of all time, and she would have the game to back it up. She got swap screwed, like, like, what a story, like, if she'd made it. So Joseph's crazy. You brought up the idol nullifier before. Now, can we talk about the absurdity of Ethan finding an advantage, not opening it in any place? And for those that haven't played LRGs, it's very simple to run off and do a confessional or go to the toilet. And
when he was at the voting booth.
Yeah, okay. So now,
anytime.
And when they showed question mark, you're like, it's probably not an idol. And when he walked to the voting booth and flashed it, and I saw the shape of it, and I'm like,
I was like, oh my God, read it. Take it out, read it, look at it.
I'm like, that's a nullifier. I'm like, as soon as I saw the shape of it, I'm like, it's a nullifier. It's not an idol. It's like a circle.
I would make one quick mention in Ethan's defense, is that we know that he binged a bunch of seasons leading up to this. He had only seen up to season 29. At that point in Survivor, the only advantage in the game was an idol. We hadn't seen extra votes. We hadn't seen safety without power. We hadn't seen a nullifier. So in his mind, you find an advantage, it's an idol, and that's all it can be.
He'd already played safety without power. He should have been clocking this other thing.
Absolutely. I just wanted to give him a tiny smidge of defense. Just a smidge, just so he knows that I still love him.
And then he walks up and plays it. And I love how Danny was
like, he already played it!
And like, unfortunately, you could see on the bit where you had to write down the name of the person you were taking out and put it in the thing. It wasn't an overpowered idol nullifier like we saw.
Matt's
comments giving me
the only thing nullified at this point in the game was my will to live.
And like,
well done, Maddie.
Like, it would have been the most, like, this is what I say. It was great TV though. Like, you couldn't ask for better TV from LRG for someone to make such a dumb move, because he goes so confidently. He's been telling Joseph, I'm playing
got an idol.
Out if you don't do what we say. And then flubs it. And then like Matt just gets up and saves his ass with like,
oh, here you go.
I do want to say, as my token compliment to Ethan after spending so much time roasting him, he has been my favorite player to watch this season.
He's the MVP of the season.
Absolutely nailing the confessionals, compelling to watch whenever he's talking with the other players or even when he's moving around by himself. His gameplay has been so fun to watch. He has, I think it's coming to an end probably next week, but he has been an absolute thrill to watch.
I agree.
Yes, Danny, we know. You told us it'd be a standout.
He's been very, very good. And this moment was just equally spectacular, I must say, in terms of just the TV moment. Like, it's insane that he didn't look at it. Like, it's the sort of thing that someone would watch and go, that's scripted. Like, why wouldn't he look at it? The way he's walking to do the voting urn, and he's like, look at my thing, and to get out the way he did. And we obviously know it's not scripted, and like no one would make a fool of themselves, certainly for a LRG. And it was amazing, and it just played in to an excellent tribal. The twist, like it or not, the whole thing was really interesting. This was an incredibly entertaining episode, whether you like the twist or not. It also brings out opinions, positive or negative, which is what you want. You want people talking about your show. And if it's mundane and like whatever, like just an ordinary boot, blah, 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 like maybe Jazz goes or maybe, whatever.
Ethan's online. Ethan, we're roasting you.
The bit where we talked about how great you were this whole season, but also the absurdity of your idol nullifier move. Go back about 5 minutes. You'll have a good moment. Now, we need to talk about the next production decision, which has become a significant controversy over this week when it's been found out. Now, I understand it was not known about at the time on the episode, but people have been sharing images. I'm going to share it now for the audience in case you're not familiar with this controversy. I've just got to get myself sorted. Okay, so I'm going to share. Here is everyone coming in, and you can see there the example puzzle. I'm trying to zoom in more.
It's very pretty. All the colours are aligned next to each other. We've got the reds near the yellows and the purples. It's a rainbow.
Now, you might recall Luke was asked, I think by Matt, how quickly he solved the puzzle. And Luke said, I solved it super quickly. Anyone would have solved it super quickly. You could do it so quick. Like, that's what he said, right? It was just that easy. And that's because Luke just put the bits in wherever he felt like.
It's like if you got a Rubik's Cube and mixed it all up and said, well, it's solved because all the pieces are on there.
How is that the solution?
The pieces all fit. That's it.
I don't want any of this.
No, that is not a solved puzzle. And we noticed that Matt was running back over to the solved puzzle to check it, to see what the colours are meant to look like. Luke just kind of chucked them all in, and once they fit, he went, I'm done.
Yeah. So, and that's not the answer. And they clearly had an example puzzle because there are multiple ways you could solve this. The pieces.
Eli is just trying to blame someone else for this. Yeah, Eli, you were the one who determined that Luke had won.
Yeah. Jeff Probst doesn't sit there like blaming some like pleb on production. You're the host. You got to own this disaster. And
you're done fucked up, Aaron.
That's an incredible disaster, which could have had a huge impact. Christy,
absolutely. Imagine if Matt and Ethan had won this challenge. Danny
says to me that if Luke and Sam were not immune, that she reckons they go there. She wouldn't have voted for them. But and they've played it out in the group chat, as we all do with these things. Sam and Luke end up potentially going at this point. Huge change in the game. Huge change. And I would back Matt Pitcher to solve that puzzle properly.
Well, because he was looking at the example, he knew what he was trying to solve.
He was running back to the example. I think this is why he asked Luke about it. He's like, Luke, how did you solve it so quickly? I had to check the example a couple of times. Controversy, Puzzlegate.
I'm not gonna lie, I was screaming at my computer for Danny to do better at throwing those cans over. She got one really good hit at the start, and then the rest didn't want to go down. Because Christy, I think, would have also been able to solve that puzzle very quickly.
Why do you think Luke wanted to do the puzzle? Is he trying to play down his challenge ability by doing some puzzles instead of like throwing things?
I'm guessing they probably both wanted to do the throwing, and I don't know, maybe there's a rock, paper, scissors or something. I don't know.
I'd never think
he's a puzzle master. I don't know what you guys are talking about. That was so easy.
Sam plays netball.
I want just to pivot a little bit. I want to give a bit of a shout out to the person who I think is possibly playing the best game at this point, or looking like she's in a really strong position, and that's Michelle.
Yeah.
Michelle seems to be untouchable. When in the
Nobody's looking at her.
In the pre-merge, even when her name sort of came up in conversations between Leah and Jacob, they were like, no, we'd much rather it was Danny. And we can see now she's really well insulated. We saw that Joseph decided to target Danny and Christy over her. So I'm really impressed with the way that she's playing the game.
I agree.
I agree she's playing a great game. I feel like she doesn't have the edit that makes me think she wins. We just don't see a lot of it. We just don't see a lot of it. That's all.
I really don't think we should be reading into the edit at all.
I like to read edgy.
And how did that go with your season?
Yeah, they did a twisted thing. I think everyone thought Chloe was going to win by the end because she had a really great.
Yes, she had a very purple winner.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Michelle. I would like to be seeing more Michelle content. To be honest, I don't think we get enough confessionals from her. To be perfectly
Michelle
frank.
10.
Yeah. There's just not enough of it. And I still feel that Sam's going to win. I think my boy Sam's going to win this thing. I feel he's in a similar position to Michelle.
I'm on the Michelle bandwagon. I agree with you, Annabelle. I think she's playing really well. I think one thing we saw her doing in the pre-merge is keeping other people in front of her as a target, and I think that's what she's going to keep doing.
I
She's
agree.
going to keep other people around that are a bigger threat. So I think we'll see her getting really close to, say, Luke or someone else who is a bigger threat, keeping them out in front so that if things do turn, she's got someone else that is going to take the bullets.
I think Sam's the one who's in front, and I think they both make the end together. That's my call. I think that she, Sam, Jazz, Shane, that's the final four to me.
Eli's saying they lost a bit of Michelle's content. Does that change your opinion?
Okay. And he was saying Matt says she was invisible but playing very, very well. Yeah, she's not an obvious target, but I think she's going to have to raise. That's where you want to be at this point in the game. Merge, final 10, not be on the radar, but obviously she's going to have to raise that profile as she moves to the end game to put forward a winner's pitch. But equally, she could go to the final 2 with Shane, and it probably wouldn't matter what she said, because even though Shane has nullified 2 votes that would have set him out, no one seems to respect him as a player. Sorry, but it's true. It's no. In most scenarios, if someone had managed to nullify themselves being eliminated twice, people would be looking at that going, "Wow, he's done some impressive stuff. We got to take him out." And then he's going to play a third idol. Do you think when he plays a third idol, people are going to wake up and go, well, has this guy got a lot more going on than I thought?
No, because he's not going to actually use the idol to gain allies and to control anything. He will control it in the sense that everyone will vote for him, and his one vote will change the outcome. But if he could take that idol and approach someone and say, look, I've got this idol, I'm playing it tonight, let's do something, let's you and me vote out this person, then that would gain some more respect, have some actual agency. But just straight out playing an idol, negating all these votes and your one vote counts, to me, that's something that saves you for one round. You need to use it to save you for multiple rounds.
Yes, he's got 3 idols, so, he's good.
I also have a point on Luke. I know something I'm worried about for him. He did not vote with the rest of his tribe. So he voted with Christy and the boys for Shane. And the rest of his tribe voted for the boys.
What do you mean?
Were they splitting?
So Christy, Danny, I think, I can't remember with Danny, but certainly Christy, Ethan, and no, in fact, it was just Christy, Ethan, Matt, Luke voted for Shane.
Oh, okay,
Michelle, Jazz, Sam,
Danny.
Not Danny.
Danny.
Danny, sorry, yeah, they voted for Ethan. So,
but was that part of a vote split? Because they knew about Ethan was walking around telling everyone he had an idol, so maybe it was a split.
It was a split. I think what Shane would need what Shane would need to do He's in a really interesting final 8 here, potentially a final 6. He's got an extra vote no one knows about. What he needs to do is engineer like a 4-4 or a 3-3 and have people talking about rocks and whatever, and then he just goes, "Don't worry, I got an extra vote at the last minute."
He's not going to do that. Like he's not going to do that.
No, it's laughable.
No one knows he's got that either. Because I don't think JT would have told people at the edge that he found it and gave it to Shane. That was like his secret thing. So he's got an idol now that no one in there would believe.
Nobody knows about it.
No one would believe that, right? There's just no way anyone would think that. And it's insane. And then he's got an extra vote as well. Like, it's an insane level of advantages he's managed to acquire. It's actually hilarious. It's actually really hilarious. I love it.
Was Matty's idol just sitting there on the bench when he snatched it?
We didn't actually see him find it, did we? Or did I miss that?
I think he just snatched it. It was sitting on top of the bench.
It wasn't hidden. It was,
It was almost like it was out by accident.
Where was everyone else on this? Like, Matt searched a lot, according to Eli.
It seemed to be like going to, like, walking to the challenge or something.
I thought he found it in the feast. But the fact is, anyone could have had that idol nullifier as well. It just feels like Ethan and Matt were more hungry to find advantages, to find things that they needed to find, because they know that they were in serious trouble. Whereas I think the people with the numbers a bit were like, we're good. We don't need to search. And maybe if we are searching, it looks dodgy. It looks bad with the rest of our crew. But they really should have been like, we're a crew. We're an alliance. We just hit merge. We've already had a bunch of advantages in this game. There's probably going to be more advantages. We need to all go hard searching to make sure people like Ethan and Matt don't find them. And they found both of them. So
absolutely,
I reward them for finding them. But what was everyone else doing?
And the best part about having an idol is knowing where that idol is. So even if you don't really need it, you having it takes it out of the hands of the person that you want to vote out.
Look, so he just said he was the last part when walking back from the merge feast. Do you mean walking to the merge feast or leaving it? Anyway, and everyone else walked past it. He went back to fill up his water bottle and just grabbed it. So people weren't being attentive. It seems people weren't being attentive enough to the presence of a possible idol. They're more interested in munging down on the pizza.
I hope Matty goes far. I hope he can bounce back from this episode.
I feel if I was there, I would want him and Ethan to go, and I'd actually want to take him out over Ethan because I think Matt's a bigger endgame threat.
He's a bigger endgame threat, but he's also more workable. So it's which one do you prioritize?
I prefer
if you think he might work with you.
I don't know. I feel like, I'll go for the one that's going to work with me more. But
you don't have to take him to the end game. Take him to final 5.
Should we bring the women in?
Yes, let's bring them in.
We've only got Danny at this stage. We need Christy to join. They are intertwine destinies, and I was going to bring them in together. Christy is on the chat, so I'm sure she's not far off. Christy, if you want to jump into the waiting room, I'll be able to bring you and Danny in together.
I'll take this off for them.
They were linked together on the show pretty much from like early in the tribes. They remain connected even though they're on different tribes. They got paired together here and it seemed to be like, it really felt like Danny was the closest person. And then in the twist, they both got removed, and we'll bring them both in together again. Danny and Christy, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hello.
This is very exciting to have you on the show, Danny. I know you're a big star hosting Melbourne Survivor, and also it's good to have you, Christy.
Thanks. So I appreciate the JT symbolism that you have going.
I know, like he was my entwined destiny right here. I want to ask you, Christy, why did you, what possessed you, a winner of Australian Survivor, and we're so happy and amazed that you did it, to go, I'm going to go do a one-day LRG, and not even an LRG that was a little bit established, like never had a season before. I'm going to put my hand up for that and go give it a crack. What was it? I love that you did it, but what was the thinking about that? I don't think anyone has done that before.
Yeah, so I actually do casting coaching, like mentoring for people who want to get on the show. And I had been working with someone, and I'm genuinely like, this person might get on. Like, they're actually a really good candidate. And how can I prepare that person for the show, for the audition process, where you normally have to play a mock game of some sort? And I wanted them to be able to stand out. And I had previously signed up for one in the US after I won, and I thought, there's got to be something in Australia. And all of a sudden, I got exposed to this whole LRG thing. It was like, they're doing it everywhere. This is serious business. And so it was literally me just passing on the information to my mentees. And then I couldn't get any information about the Sydney one. So I sent in like an application to try and get in contact to find out more. And then it went on, and I was like, I don't want to take someone's spot. And then last minute, somebody pulled out, and I was like, you know what? This could be fun.
You were a fill-in. Okay, that's amazing. I'm not going to disparage Eli, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was no late withdrawal and he just told you that because we wouldn't want to have an actual Survivor winner on their LRG, particularly their first season. It's certainly, I think it's raised up its profile. But I think your presence also, this has been a really exciting game, like gameplay-wise. And I think your presence has been a factor that people have been working around the whole time, working around, making plans with. Like Joseph wants to take you to the end because he's going to somehow beat you, he thinks. You've got, running rings around people like on the double vote. Like that could have been so less interesting if somehow you hadn't able to convince, like, with the masterclass you were doing where you were like just downplaying, oh, Danny and Michelle, oh yeah, they're just floaters. Like they're just
Who
nothing.
even are they?
They're nothing.
Danny's weak
That
and
was
challenging.
so funny. It was so funny just standing there because I was like, what the hell? These guys are like literally just letting me do this. But I think it was a lot to do with the legwork that I had been doing up until then. And they really were like, we need to show Christy that we're working with her. We need to keep her happy and make it work. And so that also kind of tied in together. But Matt was great. He just kept on bringing back up red people because he couldn't remember anybody else's name. So thank you, Maddie.
Danny, how excited were you to be paired with Christy, or did you think you were in some trouble when that happened?
I was not excited. I was not excited at all. Like I was like, obviously I love Christy and we have a great relationship now, but I knew that she would be a target come merge, and then to be paired with her and know that I'd already copped votes pre-merge, I was just like, this is not an ideal scenario for me at all. Going into Tribal Council, I felt okay because like so far everyone seemed to be on the boys, and I was like, fantastic, because I hadn't really heard us at all. I mean, because Shane doesn't tell anybody anything. But when I pulled that pink rock, I was like, fuck. Like,
yeah, why couldn't I have drawn Jazz?
I know, like Jazz, like anybody else. Like I was just like, this is
I
fun.
was totally stoked to be paired with Danny.
Had
Actually, kind of not as well, because I was like, oh, the one person here who's also gotten votes.
Yes. Like you wanted to be paired with Shane. Because he's sitting there with that legacy
A girl can dream.
That was actually the optimal scenario for any person in that game at that time.
Yeah, look exactly.
Yeah, I believe a few weeks ago you called that Christy and Shane would work together post-merge.
I called that.
You did.
That sounds like a classic CK take.
That call makes no sense. Why would I make that call?
I don't know. I'm telling you did.
I like to live in these alternate universes like I did with Ethan and his like 4D chess that really wasn't happening. Like where I try and perceive the strategic mind that's going on. There's something cooking behind Shane's strategy, but really he just wanted Christy out for some reason. I find it strange that the only person that really wanted you out probably didn't know who you were. Like, because he doesn't watch Survivor, right?
I have a feeling someone might have told him though.
Oh yeah, but it's one thing to say they won, right? Like, there's been plenty of winners, and some winners are more threatening than others.
Look,
I think
Ethan
Christy
didn't know who she was either. Ethan had no idea who she was because Ethan had never watched Australian Survivor. He'd only ever watched the US.
So do you think that but it spread around probably that you were a winner, right?
Yes.
Oh, instantly.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the second I walked in, Ethan turns to Matt and goes, "Who's she?" And Matt goes, "That's the winner of the first season." Like it was out before I could even say my name.
But what
He's
sort
a
of winner?
mystery, okay? But Shane is very intuitive and in touch, and he could just pick up on Christy's toxic energy without even needing to know. But actually, I have a question I've been dying to know. So, had Red gone to tribal council, a real tribal council before merge, and you, Christy, were sitting in between the boys and the women, who would you have sided with in that vote?
Oh, that's a really good one because I was so off the boys at that stage. I was with them and I was like, I'm with you. I am giving you the forward way there. I'm giving you a way to merge. You can sacrifice me. Like, this is your pass the whole way. And they were just giving me nothing. Well, Matt was giving me something. Ethan was not so much. And they weren't really Ethan wasn't proving to like really work with me. And so in the sandbag challenge, I have my hands up and I'm like, I've also kind of made the same deal with Merlene and Jazz. And I go, you know what? Screw them. Turn to Merlene and go, if you win this challenge, like I'm 100% with you. And realistically, I was 100% with her regardless of whether or not she'd won the challenge. But in that moment, I throw my bag down and I'm like, out. I'm with the girls. Definitely. Yeah. But now thinking about it, if I had gone to tribal and because Ethan had to play his advantage before the vote, I would have adapted and possibly changed.
But I don't think Ethan would play that advantage in a 5-person tribal because then he's just throwing Matt to the wolves.
Well, if he had to.
They make a 4-person vote. Leaving you, Merlene, Jazz, and Matt by himself. Like, Matt's done like that. So I can't see him playing it in that tribal configuration, especially if he thinks that you're with them. Which you would convince him that you are. Whether you are or not, you would have convinced him that you are. And then you'd be the swing vote and make whatever call you make at the tribal.
Yeah, and I don't think he would have seen it coming because, like, I was so on top of him. Like, we are together. What do you mean? And plus, Merlene really wanted him gone as well because of like the advantage, and there was that divide there. And I was definitely trying to maintain my relationship with Matt. So for me, I was really hoping that in some way, shape, or form that I could be left with Matt and Merlene, or when it comes down to like the next tribal when Merlene and Jazz go home, if Ethan had not won that necklace, the perfect outcome for me would have been to be left with Ethan and Merlene because they would not have worked together well, as much as I would have preferred to have kept Matt, but it would have put me in a better position in case I had lost again.
Danny, on some of the discussions on this episode on the show, you've copped votes and we talked to people that have been on the people that have come off the boots, and the feeling was you just weren't, according to them, you weren't giving them anything. You were being cold to them or stone-faced or just giving them nothing. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would agree with that assessment for Leah. Yes. I look back now and I was a complete bitch. Like I was just not. I gave her nothing. I mean, she came over and just started. Any day, she just started talking, just nonsense. And I'm naturally introverted. And for someone to come at me with like, I don't know you, I was just like, whoa. You're a lot for me, and I have no interest in you as a person. Bless her, I love her now, and I can't get enough of her now. No, like post game, but in the game, I was like, no, if there was a silent moment, bless her, she was like, so fun fact about me, and just like with just verbal diarrhea, and it was just a lot. And I think I just. It was my first time out, and I was like, "You're not a part of what I want."
You don't like people who have verbal diarrhea. Why do you like me?
Annabel.
I learned, Jules. I learned from my Sydney game
Okay.
to be a little more open to different personalities. But yeah, no, completely. I was horrible to Leah. Bless her. I'm sorry.
And what about TK as well?
I never got a chance to work with. Like the most I spoke to TK was when he told me he threw my name out there. Like what?
Yeah, can we go back to that? Like, I love your reaction of, oh, okay.
Like, what do you want me to do with this? Like the first time we talk, he's like, oh, I threw your name out there. I'm like, cool. Like,
Thanks, bro.
yeah, like so, like it would have been a problem had he come back, had we not swapped, because I knew that he had come for me.
Were you bored during the merge? That's what you asked me. You in the 6th episode of Melbourne Survivor, you sent me a text and saying, "Are you bored not going to Tribal Council?" No, I wasn't bored. I just wanted to make the merge. Were you bored sitting there in the power for like
No.
6 episodes?
No. I just meant more like for because you love the game like I do, like to not be able to like actually you're talking about all these moves and potential things that you can do. I was meant more like you just not like chomping at the bit to like actually like be in it.
What
And
about
you guys were still talking so much strategy over there, like, and every challenge where red and blue came back together, like I would have information, or Danny would be chatting to me, or Michelle, or Luke, or Sam, like my people over there were like, "Here's the strategy. Here's who we're thinking. Like, it's probably going to be Leah." So it was never like they just were stopped playing.
And it also helped because to get to Edge of Extinction, all the voted out players had to go past us. So like we were literally watching Tribal happen, like can't hear anything, but we see it happen, and then we see who goes. So then we're able to like then strategize about like, okay, if we're merging now, who's there? What are we doing? Like, so it was like it kept us in it without being so removed.
You probably could see too much of what was going on.
Oh, 100%, way too much. It was not a good thing. Yeah, it was. Yeah, to have more unknowns would have made it a lot more fun.
Had you both watched? I was wondering, you both watched Survivor? I think you reacted that you had watched South Africa season 7. Like your reaction was that it seemed like you'd watched it. You'd watched it, Danny?
Yeah, I'd seen it.
Danny's reaction was, oh god.
Because I think only the real super fans watch South Africa. Like that's a
great season.
It was a good season. It's a super fan watching season. That's when you know that.
Yeah, I'd seen it. So as soon as it tied Destinies, I was just like, fuck.
No,
although I'd seen it, I kind of didn't register. I was like, what does he mean, tied Destinies? And I was like, what does it all mean? I was just thinking there was so many, like you get sent off to this weird camp thing. I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, they were constantly being sent away on journeys and
no, the great thing about the best thing about South Africa was they got to go on a reward as well. And the Tide Destinies was on the reward. And the winners of the reward challenge could bring another couple on the reward. And the couple they took were the ones that really needed to stay and work on their game. But instead they got to go to the water slide park and basically spend the afternoon not saving their games. And the look on, particularly the woman's face, when I think Amy, and both Rainier and Amy were like, we're going to the water slide park, like instead of saving our games. So it could have been worse. You could have been at the water slide park.
No.
I have not watched this season, so I'll just sit here and let you guys talk.
Yes. So in terms of the dynamics of the Blue Tribe, because we didn't get to see as much of that, I guess, because you never went to Tribal, where would you say Luke was sitting within your 4 or 5 or however many of you there are?
What was the hierarchy of the Blues? What was the hierarchy?
My ride or dies was Sam and Michelle, and Luke was on the fringe of that.
And where was Christy in this? I'm counting Christy as a blue. She never left you guys, despite being on the other tribe.
So I have a whole like if I'd gone merge, I would have pugonged the shit out of the Reds and just sat healthily. I know as boring as it is, I would have done it. I was very powerful going into that moment.
And when does Christy go? 5 or 4 in your scenario?
Depending on immunity.
But she's not making the end, right?
No, she doesn't. Oh, I'm not taking that. No, I was going to the end with Christy. No, not Christy. With Sam and Michelle, and I would have chopped at Luke and Christy at 4 and 5.
It was so obvious to me. Like I knew that I was the 5, like the 5th. Yeah. And there was like all these interesting combinations, but like ultimately there was always Danny and Michelle. And at the very beginning of the day, Danny, Michelle, and Sam went off together, and Luke and I stood together basically the whole time, and it came in and around. And I had spoken with Luke at the egg hunt. So strangely for me, in my head, the whole time I was like, Luke's my number 1. Like,
Interesting.
And it kind of like evolved and stuff. And I was like, well, we weren't together, but I still kind of felt that way. And so this interesting dynamic of, some people were thinking Sam was on the fifth. Like I was thinking that, I was thinking that, and then Danny was thinking that Luke was the fifth.
Interesting.
You needed to work with Joseph. Joseph was taking you to the end.
Oh, I was working with Joseph. Oh, we'll talk about that because he almost didn't vote for me. Like it was quite a last minute decision that he voted for me, ultimately getting Danny and myself out.
But it wouldn't have mattered.
I was working with literally every single person except for Shane.
But even if only Shane had voted for you, then you both go. Like it doesn't matter what Joseph does in that scenario.
No, I'd say I don't.
No, it's a tie.
No, it becomes a tie vote, and we've also worked this out. We don't. No, because the majority are blue here, right? So Sam and Luke are not going to vote for Christy and I again.
What's the tie that you're talking about?
Because there was 2 votes for Christy.
Yeah.
If
Joseph, Shane.
And Joseph and Shane. If
they go,
Joseph then votes for Jazz or Michelle, it's a tie vote. We re-vote.
Okay. Yes.
The majority,
but
I don't think we go.
Who would Joseph have to vote for there to save you? Jazz, obviously. You think that the majority would take Michelle and Jazz out instead of
hang on. In that scenario, we only have 6 people voting because there's 4 people essentially tied. Luke, Sam definitely vote for Michelle and Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely 100%, no doubt.
Why would they do that? I don't know about that either.
Why would they lose one ally? Why would they choose to lose 2 allies when they can lose 1?
Because there's 2 blues versus like 1 and like a half, like not sure about Jazz.
And Ethan and Matt don't vote for Christy because they want to work with her moving forward.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So if Joseph makes that play, you know what? You should have made that play.
The only reason why, and I could strangle Ethan over this. I love you, Ethan, but the hell are you doing threatening Joseph?
Yeah.
And then being like, oh, but I don't want you to go. And then
I'm going to vote for you anyway.
Sitting there being like, what the hell is going on? And so in that moment, I was like, okay, maybe Joseph is voting for Michelle still, kind of thing. But in that moment, boom, the whole plan went to shit, and there was no way that Joseph was ever working with Ethan.
As someone who threatened someone myself in my life, I can tell you they had no interest in working with me after I made that move. It doesn't make friends. It just doesn't make friends in the way you hope it will.
It was but votes for him and gives him no plan. He was just like, so do something.
So did Joseph know about the legacy advantage? It felt like he knew about it, at least.
Only last minute, super last minute. Yeah. I think Shane goes, I've got something that can save us.
Yeah.
He didn't know what it was. He just knew that he could get saved.
Yeah.
Am I right in then piecing together here that given the animosity you were feeling towards Ethan and Matt at that stage, particularly Ethan, and affinity towards Luke, that you were fully intending to abandon New Red and go back to working with Blue?
It's an interesting one because I was balancing it really. I was going to figure out where it was going. But ultimately, if Luke and Sam had not won it, I would have gauged where the numbers were because they were totally going for them. Ultimately, I was like, I'm with Blue, but I know Blue's going to ditch me at 5.
Yes.
Matt and Ethan won't ditch me because they need me as a number. They will ultimately work with me further. So we would kind of get to a point where I'd be like, you know what, Blue's going to screw me over. This is where the red needs to be.
Yeah.
Do you think anyone starts thinking about you? I don't know. We think it's final 2. Let's say it's a final 3. Let's say Matt and Ethan are thinking about bringing you to final 3, right? Do you think anyone starts talking about your incredible endurance in final immunity challenges as a reason to not let you get to final 3?
They're not going to do a 6-hour challenge in a 12-hour game.
Oh God! Well, I didn't do too good in that sandbag challenge.
You said you dropped
I
down
thought I
on
was going to do better.
Because you all had the same weight.
In fairness, the main challenge of the sandbag challenge seemed to be keeping all of the bags in the bag. They weren't.
That's exactly what it was. My bag was about to fall on my head, which is why I dropped out first. It was fucking ridiculous.
I just thought you were trying to lower your threat level.
Every challenge this season has not just been the challenge, but also the production, the challenge of what production puts in front of you as an equal challenge. Like, we go into the eating challenge where Christy was going to walk off the show if they made her fucking eat meat. Like, I honestly think that if Matt P was the one sitting there and was like, Eli, do I have to eat this? He would have been like, yes, you have to eat it. Suck it up, Matt. You said, like, Eli, I'm not eating this. He's like, that's fine. You can swap out. Just swap out with anyone you want. It's all good.
And then she almost dies. Because she won't eat meat.
The
It
muesli
was
bar was a
totally
horrible
under,
choice.
like, you didn't even see the worst of it. Like,
Oh, it
I
was
was
much worse than we saw.
legitimately choking and was, like, not
that-
in a good way.
And I suggested at the time, we didn't see it, that was commented in the comments, and that Matt saved you. Did that ingratiate you? Matt saved your life. Did you feel more warmly towards Matt after that moment, or not really?
Oh, it was weird. Like, when we were at the very beginning of the game, I was like, I want to work with that guy, Matt. And when I wasn't on his trap, I was like, shit, damn it. And so the second I swapped and I was on his trap, I ran straight up to him. I'm like, I'm so excited to play with you. I wanted to play with you since I saw
You
you.
would have loved that. It would
How did he react with his like Pikachu face to that? Like the
Oh, I love Matt so much.
yeah, look,
He's like
he's
an
a,
angel.
if anyone's actually met Matt, I've only met him on one day when he was helping crew Melbourne Survivor 4, and like he was put on my team to like be one of my people that was gonna follow. Like, I was running one tribe and he was going to be part of my crew. I'd never met him before, and immediately I'm like, this is just the most lovely, sincere, genuine person I've met like in a long time, and it just exudes out of him, and it's so like you feel it immediately on meeting him. He's such a genuine, lovely person.
It's a beautiful human.
Yeah, and it really comes off like straight away. There was a moment when we first swapped, and Lizzie was like, I don't trust Matt. He's dodgy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How dare you say that about Matt?
Lizzie was on the show and she admitted she didn't have the best reads on people or the game. That was her own self-assessment of what had happened.
Sam in just this season episode was like, I don't trust Matt either. And I was like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I know.
Like,
He also he gets a little cocky in this episode, bless him. We go tete-a-tete at tribal council. He's like, do you see me as a physical threat? And I was like, yes. Like, knowing him now, no. But like,
Look, you understand where he was coming from then. He's probably not been called a physical threat much in his life. It's, you know, like when I got picked first for a tribe swap, like that was the first time that's ever happened to me in my life. I've never been like, I'm the last kid picked in school my entire life. So when you get into these things and suddenly you're being perceived by people as something completely different to what you are and how you perceive yourself, your ability to actually play against people's perception of you as opposed to your own perception of yourself is about how you do well. And, you know, Matt needs to accept that he looks like a really phically fit, you know, athletic guy. Whether he is or not, that's how he looks.
Well, the thing is that he is so tall.
So tall.
Okay. Like every time I catch up with him, I'm like, whoa, man, you're like so much taller than I remember. Like every time, so he really does tower.
He does. And that's, like, I called him, I think I said like strong and strapping or tall and strapping, something like that. It's also because, like, you know, I didn't know anything about him. We'd had no crossover in our game whatsoever, except, and you don't see it because it's all the chat happening before we go, and we're talking, and he's just like, I told him I was going to vote for Shane and Joseph because I know I'm voting for him and Ethan, and he was like, pinky promise, and I was like, no. That was the extent of our interaction. He asked me to pinky promise that I wouldn't vote for him. And then he argues about me being a physical threat. That was it. That was the only crossover we had at all during the game.
You didn't pinky promise him. He knew you were lying. If you weren't pinky promising, you were lying.
He made the Pikachu face when I said no. He was like,
that was such a
But this is what I mean. I've learned a lot from that. I obviously know to be a little bit more ingratiating with people now than I did then.
It was a very
challenges. I just wanted to point out a really great observation that you orcas have had. All of the pre-merge challenges were very individual, which at the time I really didn't realize because I didn't care. I was like, I just need to figure out who was going home. That's all that I care about. Like, and totally not a diss on production stuff, but that was just such a good observation that I did not have.
I think that was actually Max's. That was Max's take. Max's hot takes. He's been much hotter than warmer this season. That it's just not the whole point of team challenges. Is are you doing your part for the team, and individually you don't get to do that as much. I feel.
Yeah.
Particularly if you don't all get to compete. A lot of the times you weren't competing, which I find is challenging for enjoying the program and also for everyone pulling.
It was also very stressful, like especially if you're coming down to like it was going to be a tie, and I feel like the soccer for me wasn't a tiebreaker, but if I lost, we'd lost, and then there was a tiebreaker with Christy. It was like I don't know, it felt more stressful than like a tribe thing where you can kind of like meld in, but it was just like,
Screaming at the people.
It's on me. Yeah. Like
I
it was
would
just
love
like
the opportunity to nominate someone to participate in the challenge on my behalf.
A champion. You can nominate your champion to go in and compete for you.
yeah.
No, Danny, I want to ask you something about the beginning of the game. We saw you this close to getting that legacy advantage. This close. Can we go through, how does the game change if you find the legacy advantage and not Shane?
I win.
No, but see, my thought is that Shane is on a completely different trajectory if he doesn't find that legacy advantage.
I disagree.
Like his everyone not trusting him comes down to him finding an advantage and not telling anyone about it. So I want to know, would you have told people what it was?
No, but I don't think I would have until we're getting to merge, and then I would have let people in because it's something I could use at that point in time to save my pair. But looking back on not getting it, obviously then Shane gets on the other tribe, and then I tell everybody I'm blue because he's not with us. I'm like, here's everything I know, and that's what made Christy save me, is because she was like, this girl tells me things, I trust her. She's like, that's why I'm saved at the first tribal council, because people trust me because I'm open with knowledge.
So then do you go at the first tribal if you don't? If you find it?
Go. No,
take your head.
No, because she says that she sees Ethan find something.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, she was also close to finding that one too.
I don't think JT would probably ingratiate himself.
And the legacy advantage.
And also, the JT went. I don't think JT was super ingratiating himself with everyone. Just in from what we perceived to get himself saved over Danny, particularly. Just based on having what I would have seen. But I don't know Shane. Other than Shane not having the legacy advantage, I think he's still the same player, right? Whether he has,
I don't think his play is any different. I think he's still a lone wolf.
He's just
no, but I don't think he's not immediately targeted. I don't think.
I think he was targeted.
Ethan reveals this is what I've got, and everyone knows that Shane found something and is refusing to tell anyone. He still probably goes off on his own and doesn't talk to anyone, but yeah, he doesn't have this unknown advantage.
Yeah, but he got saved by Leah anyway. I think Leah saves him anyway. She controlled that vote. And
I just don't think he comes up, because the whole thing is just Ethan and Shane, they have advantages. Their names wouldn't have even come up, potentially. Yeah.
Well,
the conversation doesn't get started.
Particularly when you've only met people for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you want to come up with a reason to vote someone out. Someone having an advantage is something to talk about. It's not personal. It's just, hey, they've got an advantage. So let's just flush that, or let's try and get rid of it. Even though that's insane. You should never just try and vote out the person with the advantage because it could just blow back on you. But it's someone to talk about, isn't it?
But don't forget, Shane's going around offering all the women massages. And that's
never offered any of us a massage. Never did.
I offered a massage, but it was after the game.
Massage, ever.
I will accept a Shane massage. He is actually a really lovely person.
He is. He's beautiful.
I don't think anything on the show has made him not seem like a lovely person. He's just been such an interesting character to have all these advantages and zero knowledge of gameplay and Survivor and what he should be doing with them. And then he's played two of them correctly. And Christy, you said you guys got such a long epilogue in the episode. Obviously, they really rated, and we rated you on the show. You said, I'm not going to vote for Shane. I don't value people who use idols twice to save themselves. Is that your actual view that someone that gets votes doesn't deserve to win even if they nullify them with idols? Or is that
No, not entirely. I'm a huge fan of Ben's winning path.
Yeah,
he idled all the way, but you know, like he made it work instead of like waiting for everyone's votes to be done. He goes, I'm playing it now. Like controversial because who knows if you play it early. Jeff obviously accepts it, but it forced everyone to break themselves up. Like awesome, for sure. My vote. If you can use an advantage beyond just I was going home every single time, great. But the thing, so Jules really hit the point, like when she was talking about it. But
Thank you.
there was
Thank
just
you.
nothing that was going on. I didn't see him talking with anyone. He actually didn't go with the Blues and went rogue, voted me, which is like fine.
How dare he?
But he didn't really like stick with the plan. He wasn't with anyone, and then he kind of doesn't tell Leah that he's going to vote for me. Could have got me out.
Yeah.
Then it goes again, and then Joseph kind of just really last minute decides to do it. So I'm not against people having advantages all the way to the end and crushing it. It's what was that word they used, Jules? It was a very good word.
Agency?
Yeah. It's about the agency of what you do with it.
Look, as we said on the show, Shane would need to get to Final Tribal and deliver an amazing speech, you know, Christy Bennett like, of all the plans he had and all the things he was doing that no one realized and that we don't think is actually happening. So that would be a hard sell for him to even realize that that's what he's got to do. I feel like it'd actually be really interesting to see him make Final Tribal because he's never even watched a Final Tribal, so he doesn't actually know what it entails or what, you know, the way he might get reamed with questions, he might get aggressive jurors. Like, he doesn't know what to expect if he's the one that gets there. So it's an interesting experiment to watch him play because, like, you rarely get someone in these LRGs or even Real Survivor, even if they're recruited for Real Survivor, like, people normally watch a season or two before they go on. Like, they have an understanding of the general game. And he's got nothing.
Everyone does.
Yeah, I actually really appreciate players who come who have like never really watched it or haven't watched it, don't know a lot about it, because they bring a really interesting way to it that you can't really predict. And for what it's worth, Shane is playing very well. Like, I obviously have huge amounts of experience. I flopped on my actual season in the first 3 days completely. And so he's actually playing so well for having no freaking clue. I obviously came in like a bullet out of a gun, knowing exactly what was happening. So I love seeing new players. Like, I love Yul. I think he's a phenomenal player in the US.
Yeah. I think
so. Apply if you have never played or never watched is the moral of the story.
Is it
I
just
think people have never watched or watching this right now?
That would be a stretch of all. Is it though, Christy, that Shane is the first person to ever vote you out?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Have I played something else before?
But like, you never got voted out in Australian Survivor.
I know. Yes, I have never been voted out. So Joseph and Shane are the first people to ever vote me out.
Do you wish they'd voted?
Take that, Lee.
Do you wish they'd written Danny's name instead, so you could like claim a technicality of not being voted out?
Well, sorry, say that again. I was giggling at Jules.
Yeah. Do you wish they had put Danny's name instead, so you could claim a technicality of having never been voted out of Survivor?
Oh, of course. Like, I don't ever want to have said that I've been voted out of it. But you know what? I went out the best way. Like, if I could have gone out anyway, that was the best way. I knew exactly what was going on pretty much. I'd set up the vote to rebound, to keep the Blues happy, to keep the Reds happy, and juggling it all together. And ultimately, the people I was working with didn't want me gone. And so I was so proud of that. And to like have so many advantages have to get used and taken up and stuff to be out, like, that's way better than just having everyone vote for me or like have an attempted blindside. Like, I'd hate that.
Leah's raised a very good point. Technically, Christy was voted out, but the twist saved her. This time, she's voted out and done.
This is true. And I have no shame in that. Like, people all the time are like, blah, 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 you were voted out. I'm like, you play to the game, right? Like, the producers they're a part of the game. Like, the twists are a part of the game. And so people like Haley get a lot of heat. I'm like, That's
Nah,
what the show
don't come for
was.
Haley.
Just
Don't come
ask
for
Luke and
her.
the puzzle. Just ask Luke and the puzzle.
Oh,
People
that
like-
puzzle. But I've said this to Sam and Luke. It was not their fault.
No.
And I think I said it to Eli before. I'm like, you're the host. You called it.
It's not Sam and Luke's fault.
Just take responsibility. It's fine. Like, just say it. It's all good.
He did. Eli did say in the chat before that he did. Like, he was blaming someone else, but then ultimately he's like, yeah, the responsibility sits with him, and he's accepted that. He just
And
didn't realize.
We played it out. Luke and Sam go home.
Yeah, so it could have been a very, very different game. That's a note to all budding LRG hosts out there. Just check your challenge results properly. You don't want this
Eli, for
controversy.
season 2, make sure you test your challenges before you play them.
Dom
That's
Pell
some
would
advice.
never have let this happen.
Sorry?
Dom Pell would never have let this happen.
Oh, yes, Dom
Brady
Pell.
would never have let this happen.
No, Brady would never let this happen.
Should we
He's
ask
talking
the
about people
standard
who
Max
are
question
allowed
of did you have fun?
Oh yeah, Max wants to know.
Next
Did you guys
question.
have
Did you have
fun?
fun?
So much fun. I had so much fun. Well, that's why I came again. That's why you'll see me again. But I had the best
Yeah.
time.
That's another reason I could handle this twist, right? Because I know Danny, like I cast Danny to play on another season. I've seen her play again. She gets another chance. Christy, obviously, you played the real thing. So as far as like people going out in a twist like this, it's not like it's people that was their only shot or something. It's a tough twist, but I could get my head around it because even though it's sad for the two of you to go because you're such big players on this season, it was like I know personally. You've got other experiences to fall back on.
Yeah, and you say that like I was like, well, now my name is synonymous with Christy for the rest of Sydney Survivor. Like that's pretty cool. Like as a Survivor fan, like that's how cool. And now we're like really good friends. She was here on Sunday night. We watched the episode together.
And you wore matching outfits. So I've got a selfie of that.
And completely accidentally. Outfits. And everybody says it on every pod when you ask, have you had fun? But this community, I fucking love this community. It's just the best part of it.
For sure. Like I came in being like, I'm not going to be friends with any of these people really. Like I'm coming to play and like everyone's going to know who I am. I'm not going to know who anyone else is. Really, I was just like, I want to see if my love for Survivor can like kind of come back because it was a bit like complicated in playing and then all of this. And I just wanted to play the game in its most raw form. And I left and I was like, I'm back in love. Like this has been the absolute best. And it has been one of the best decisions I made. I'm not against it.
Ooh,
I don't think I wouldn't do the online one. Like I'm terrible at replying to people just in general.
She is.
You get voted out for inactivity on those things. That's like the cardinal sin. So yeah, if you're not good at replying to people, it wouldn't be for you.
And Danny, I think I know the answer. I'm going to ask it anyway. You played Sydney and then Melbourne. Would you play a third time?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Who wouldn't?
I knew that, but
Absolutely. I can't get enough. I'd play all the time if I could. I think it's just so much fun.
Now, when everyone started this season, people saw you, Christy, and everyone was fanboying and fangirling a bit. Give me the indulgence of it fanboying myself a little bit. I said this on when we did the cast review, which I don't think you watched, but I remember watching Australian Survivor. When I've been watching, I'm an old man, like unlike a lot of these people. I'm 40 years old. I watched Australian Outback when I was in high school, and I watched Survivor like my whole life. And I was excited for an Australian season because I'm like, I might one day be able to be on the show at last. So I was really hoping it would do well. And obviously there was the bad ones that happened before that. I was really hoping it would do well. And it was not the most exciting season. It was full of that loyalty and mateship like rubbish that like American Survivor got stuck in. And I'm coming in that finale and I'm like, Lee's just going to fucking win this thing and it's going to be so boring. And then I don't even know if they're going to get a season 2, right? Because it's just going to be dull as shit. And then you come out and just dominate that challenge first, which is like, wow, that's amazing. And beat Lee, like the professional athlete in that. And then you go to this final tribal council and deliver the most amazing final tribal council speech that I've ever heard that changed the jury's perception of you and my perception of you as a viewer. Because I was like, you were a bit of a nothing player. And then you just sold every move that you did. And it was like, that's amazing. You did do those things. And then you had, when Nick goes up to vote, he's like, I can't believe this is the vote I'm casting, but you've played an amazing game. But only now have I realized it. It was so incredible. And in my view, that final tribal council saved the Australian Survivor franchise. It's the only reason we still have a show. So that's
how many winners do we think were actually determined at final tribal? Like most winners, I would say the jury knew who they were voting for going into it. Not many minds are changed. So that's the most impressive part, I think.
So I thank you from all the Survivor fans from my heart for making an amazing final tribal council that kept the show going. Because season 2 then was so dynamic and exciting. Because I think all of the players looked at what you did and they're like, no, we're gonna fast forward America. America took 7 or 8 seasons to get to where season 2 is in Australia, but they fast forward right to it, and the show becomes dynamic and amazing. And I think your game is why that became the case. And now we have such a strong Australian Survivor program, bar 1 or 2 seasons that weren't the best, but a lot of the seasons have been very, very strong with very good gameplay because you set the bar. So thank you so much for that from me.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. It was an amazing, wild journey, and I had the same problem when I got out there. I was like, oh my god, all these people are talking about mateship and loyalty, and 50% of the cast are going on about it. And I just thought you have to play with the cards that you're dealt with. Like I wanted to play a much bigger game. And I just had everything bloody thrown at me, pagonging happening, like shittest tribe twist ever. The mateship and loyalty going on left, right, and center. So I just thought, what do I have control of? If all shit hits the fan, this is what it is. And I knew that my game would never, ever get recognized unless I made it to the end. Yeah. But for me, like you, I sat there when I was 8 and I watched it every single year, and I said to my dad, one day I'm going to get on and win. And ultimately that all happened, which is amazing. But it fundamentally was like, you know what? I'm prepared to lose it all to get it all at the end. So I get a lot of heat over that. a lot of heat. But it was also kind of nice to play Sydney Survivor as well, because it was like, I can apply all those strategies and things and play sort of more of a game that I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And you did. You ran your fucking rings around everybody.
Who's giving you heat for your win? No one should give you any heat.
Oh, Lee got robbed. Didn't you know?
Who thinks this?
Yeah, he got robbed by himself.
Yeah, no, Lee dropped for her. Lee gave her that final immunity.
He did not. There is no way he dropped.
That's what people say to her.
I know she asked for it.
He
is a professional athlete. There is no way in hell he drops for fucking anybody. And he's taken L to the end so they can get married and share the money.
Yeah,
no,
it's true.
I'm sorry. Lee robbed himself of that with his bullshit loyalty, integrity. Oh, don't get me started.
Look, Lee, the other great thing about Tribal Council was Lee's basic jaw drop, where he realized when you just did your speech, and he realized his speech was rubbish, and that as he's progressively losing the jury with each question, you can tell he knows he's losing it, like as it goes on, and he's as shocked as anyone about what you're delivering at that final Tribal Council.
Didn't he end up only getting 1 vote?
L's. Yeah, L's.
So it doesn't count.
So Sam Webb didn't even vote for him.
No. Sam didn't vote for him.
All the mateship and loyalty went nowhere when it came to the final vote.
He actually turned to me like on the day when we're at the beach, and he goes, "Oh, what's going to happen at Final Tribal?" I was like,
I'm going to win. That's what's going to happen.
I was like, I'm not telling you anything. I was like, I don't know. I was like, on the way to Tribal, just.
You were like, I think Nick's going to be really nice to you and give you an easy question.
Oh, Nick asked me like 7 questions. I mean, like, stop asking questions.
I mean, Nick was going to be really nice to Lee. Yeah. Like, I mean, Nick was not happy with Lee, obviously. Anyway, thank you so much for playing. Thank you for coming on this show. Like, I when you were announced in the cast, I'm like, do you think she'll come on our little podcast here?
I had faith that Danny would make this happen.
Yeah, and so thank you, Danny. But you've also been in the chat as well. So it's amazing to see you didn't just play. You've also, you're engaging with it like everyone who plays, well, not everyone, but most people who play the LRGs do, and they engage in the chat. And I think that's because, as you said, you found friends, you found community, you've found a love of Survivor in these people who who do it just for the love of it. Like, we're not playing for money here, right? You know, it's only for the love of the game. We're doing this. There's no money from making this podcast. We all just make it and use
I'm
our
getting
time.
paid. I don't know about you.
Well, I'm not paying you. I don't know who's paying you. Maybe Danny's paying you for the nice things you say.
I don't have anything to say to that.
Not confirm nor deny.
Look,
No, I
hey, you
love
can
it. It's
fangirl
actually
over Christy.
awesome.
I'm going to fangirl over Danny.
Go ahead.
Danny, I
You
love
and
you.
Thank you
dude.
so much for making like this community as well. Like for so many years, I thought I was just this person who loved Survivor, and I didn't know anybody. Even when I went on the show, I didn't know anybody who liked the show. And so finally, I have people that I can talk with about it and fangirl just as much as you guys. Like, I forget that I played all the time.
When
I'm
I
like,
played
oh, this
Melbourne,
is so
I
cool.
tried to downplay my Survivor fandom. Danny was the only person who truly saw it. Other people did not quite know. But yeah, it's so good to find people that love it. So yeah, I know exactly how you feel.
And I didn't make this community either. I found it myself. When I went on Melbourne Survivor, I've been watching Survivor for 20 years with no one to talk to about it. I didn't have a single friend that watched the show. And hilariously, my best friend and his wife, which is my other best friend, they watched Melbourne Survivor because I was on it, because, you know, watch their friend. And then they've asked me for a list of, like, I've given them a list of 20 seasons to watch. Like, now they're watching the show, the actual show, and they're loving it. So, you know, that it's funny like that. But like, yeah, and now I do drafts with Annabel and Max, and we catch up, and and talk about Survivor. It's amazing. So I did a Survivor South Africa podcast with Annabel.
Amazing podcast, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody in the chat who's been super engaged. That's been really great. And thank you so much, Christy and Danny. It's been really great to talk to you both.
Join us next
Thank
week.
you.
Sydney Survivor's out again on Sunday. Then we'll be back on Thursday.
I won't be here.
Yeah, we're gonna be original Orcas, me, Annabelle, and Max next week to talk about the next boot. I think it's gonna be a really dynamic episode. It'll be really interesting to see what happens, unless they just vote out Luke, which will be boring. So let's hopefully something interesting happens. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone in the comments. We will see you next week.